here with Byron Spradlin, who is the director of Artists in Christian Testimony International. Thanks for joining us today.
You are so welcome.
It's been fun to kind of journey with you over the years. You've been in Franklin, Tennessee for as long as I've been here, or longer. And so it's fun to sit down with you and to hear your story. If you would, just in short, though, briefly, tell me, what does Artists in Christian Testimony International do?
Basically, we're a ministry and missions sending board for artistic and innovative ministers and missionaries who are doing Christ's work around the world.
Okay. And your role, hands-on, what do you do personally in ACT?
Well, I'm the founder, and I'm the chief executive officer and president, and so I oversee the entire mission and ministry sending effort.
And you've got some numbers right now. How many artists do you have who are working with and through ACT International?
This very moment, we have on our formal roster 369 people who comprise 231 ministry departments. We're in about 35 of the states of the United States. We're incorporated in Canada, Kenya, and Brazil, and we touch about 30 nations around the world.
So how did all this start in the first place? Because that's quite a large ministry, and obviously it's the focus of your life. But I'm curious, how did it start in the first place?
Well, you know, like so many new or innovative ministries that are at least not conventional, it starts out of there being a need both in the church and in the culture, and someone made aware of it by the Lord to try to meet those needs. So way back in 1968, when I was 19 years old, I was at the University of California at Davis working on an international relations degree, though I had been in music since I was 8 years old. Started piano, classical piano, but I started improvising when I was 9 years old. And then when I was about 11, I picked up the French horn, and then went on and studied with the former first horn of the San Francisco Symphony, who was then in the Oakland Symphony. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, and so I studied with Earl Saxon for about 6 or 7 years, and had that whole background. Got in the Oakland Symphony Youth Orchestra, which freed me up at my high school to do vocal music, and became the student conductor for all of that.
So you did a lot.
That, correct. And then I picked up
music.
Banjo and guitar when I was 13 and 14, and started singing in folk groups when I was 15.
So you're an artist, basically.
Yeah. And during that time, of course, I was raised in the church, and I was sort of a good church kid, made a profession of faith when I was 9. But when I was at the University of California at Davis, I was far from the Lord, and God really began to put a real sense of conviction on me. And during that same time, I was drug into a little Christian group of 20 students meeting on Sunday nights from the ministry Cru, used to be called Campus Crusade for Christ.
Yeah.
And that was even more conviction on me. And so during that time, that summer of 1968, I stumbled into a group called the Continental Singers. And there's probably a lot of older people in the church who know about that Christian music ministry, because it sent like 50 or 60,000 Christian musicians and other artists around the world during the late 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and such. And I went to Asia, and that was during the Vietnam War time, and we played all around Vietnam, and during that time we were not only playing, but we were sharing Christ. And it was during the intensity of that summer of traveling in 8 countries that I really surrendered my life to Christ. And in the process, actually it was in August in Manila, the Philippines, and I remember on a Friday night I had been sort of interacted or connected with by a Filipino navigator guy who for 2 nights shared scripture with me, and finally on the steps of one of the YMCAs in Manila asked me to, really challenged me to turn my life over to Christ, which I did. And in surrendering, I knew immediately that I needed some key life changes, and so I broke up with my girlfriend, and she was wonderful, but I was not, and that needed to stop. The next day, I surrendered my music to God in a way I never had before, and then also committed my self to His worldwide program and world missions.